Thank you so much for being here with us. A lot of my friends actually committed, a lot of our friends actually committed that they'll be here with full support. Well, thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it. Um, we're going to try to make this engaging. It's not something that you don't already know, or it's more like a refresher. It's not a 101, but I think we want to make it a little engaging. We want to throw some data, some perspectives out there for you all to really understand why Middle East is continues to remain one of the most popular destinations for recruitment for all our institutions. So let me actually start with a quick round of introductions by all our panelists, and then we'll get into some Q&As. Also, would love to know our audience demographics. So my name is Rohit Kandari. I'm from KIC Universities, and I'm the director for University Relations and Outreach. I've had the good fortune of knowing a lot of you in this room, and also traveling in the Middle East for over 8 years now, supporting recruitment activities for universities. I'm going to pass it on to our co-presenters.
Great. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Karen Bauer. I'm the regional manager, referred to as the REAC, for the Middle East and Central Asia. I'm located in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates, and very happy to be here. This is my first IC3, so thank you for coming to our session.
Hi, my name's Samantha Way Jenkins, and I work in Durham School for Girls in Doha, Qatar. So going to give sort of a little bit more of the high school perspective in this session. I'm here with people who I respect and who inspire me, so I'm a little bit intimidated, not only by my co-speakers, but also by the audience, so bear with me.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Vandana Mahajan. Today I'm representing Western University. I'm their international advisor. I've been attending IC3, I think, for over 5 years now. So happy to be back and looking forward to connecting with you all through the session.
Well, thank you so much. Awesome. With a show of hands, how many of us here have traveled to the Middle East or recruit in Middle East actively? Okay, it's a pretty decent number. How many universities over here? High schools? Fair disclosure, this session is going to be more focused for universities, but please feel free to be here in the room just to learn about Middle East as a region. But let's start about talking about why Middle East, right? I often tell this to universities. When I think of Middle East, I never think of the Emiratis or the Saudis or the Kuwaitis or the Omanis. I always think of the international population over there, right? We often go through certain reports about the outward mobility trends in Middle East and how the numbers are shrinking, but are those numbers really shrinking? We're not seeing those numbers reflect, the international population numbers reflect on some of those reports. So know that Middle East, as we call it, the crossroads of the world. I think it's one of the key destinations for universities because of the location, but also because of the international diaspora living in that region. It's also a region with high affluent community. So for all our universities who are tired of answering questions around scholarships, well, hopefully you won't see a lot of those questions coming in Middle East, especially not for the local population. A lot of them are supported through government scholarships, and most of them are full-paying students for universities. And there's definitely a need for students to get high-quality education. Middle East as a region isn't too old. They haven't been able to invest heavily in increasing the capacity for universities in the region. There are a lot of institutions now who have their offshore campuses in Middle East, and it's growing, and we're seeing that. But there's a high demand for students to get high quality education, and that's when they're looking out at universities all over the world. So there's obviously a little less competition out there. I've already talked about them coming from high-income families. In fact, we have a slide coming up shortly that talks about the disposable income in those countries. But Saudi, and it's a vast topic. I mean, Middle East, it's not one region we're talking about. We're talking about multiple countries. It's a very vast topic to be covered in 50 minutes. And I know I'm going to keep timing myself. So we want to keep it engaging so that we can take some Q&As. But you can see Saudi, it's spending 19% of its total budget on education, and it's growing. I mean, with their Vision 2030, it's going to keep increasing. Some basic statistics over here, we're seeing an increase in vocational training. I mean, right now, Middle East as a region does have a lot of expat community because they're the ones who are supporting them with a lot of the work that goes around the country. But we've seen that what happened with Omanization, as we call it, that really wiped away a lot of expat community and helped grow the economy for the local population. And I think a lot of countries in in Middle East overall are looking in that direction. And that's why vocational training, we're seeing almost 200,000 students who are enrolled in vocational training courses around the Middle East. Qatar's GDP is on the rise, 218 billion by 2025. It's also one of the largest GDP per capita country in the world. So there's obviously a lot of spending capacity there. UAE is spending about 21% of its budget in 2023 in just education, and it's growing. All these countries we're talking about, it's growing except for a couple of them. It's also a country where it's ranked number 1 with economic freedom, and that's why you see a lot of universities trying to establish universities over there. Not just universities. I mean, there are businesses who are trying to establish. No one wants to pay taxes, so a lot of businesses are actually getting established in UAE. It offers that freedom, economic freedom. I mean, their economy grew by 7.6%. Again, some of these are information that you'll already find there, but Jordan, for example. Now, Jordan is not comparable with a UAE or a Qatar or a Saudi or a Kuwait. The economy is not that great in Jordan. Yet there is a very high outward mobility from Jordan, especially to Germany. And there are some great students. It's one of my favorite regions to travel to because you get some really great students over there in Jordan. But there's a genuine need for scholarships. So I think knowing the markets is really important. Where are you going to throw that money, scholarship money, or where will you not need those scholarship money for students? And we're seeing Jordan numbers growing up, but these are more towards Germany or places that are offering high scholarships or financial aid. Again, some information about average disposable incomes, and pretty much most of the countries are above the global average of 13,000 USD, but Jordan still remains to be down. Just some statistics on number of students studying overseas, and this is a UNESCO report from 2021. But Saudi remains to dominate a major chunk of the international students from Middle East studying abroad. We've in recent years seen Saudi going down because of the scholarship program revamp, and they don't support students to study English anymore. Earlier we had students studying English for 2 years, 3 years, and they stopped that. So there's been quite a lot of change over there. But we do see an upward trend in some of the countries. Some flat. We're not seeing a dramatic downward trend in any of these countries with their international students studying abroad. We also do at universities, we do some surveys, and this is just a snapshot of top 25 countries that universities are looking at recruiting. India, Vietnam, China, but again, from a Middle East standpoint, Saudi and UAE remain to be in the top 25 countries of choices for recruitment. Within Middle East, you can see UAE, Qatar, Oman, Kuwait, Saudi, and so on. So that's the order of preference for universities from a Middle East standpoint. And overall, Middle East is actually the third important region followed by Asia and Latin America and Middle East. I already touched based upon this a little bit, but you can see, the expat population is growing in the Middle East, and India does dominate. We're dominating the country with our population, but also the Middle East with our population. It has a very high Indian population or diaspora. In UAE, for example, 88% of UAE is expats. It's just about 12%, which is actual Emiratis. Within those 88%, there's about 50% just from India. So when you're thinking about recruiting in India, are you thinking about recruiting in the Middle East? Right? That's the question we got to ask ourselves. And then all the countries, pretty much, except for Saudi and Oman has come down to 50% now. Saudi is down to 35% of expats. But I think as institutions, we need to tailor our recruitment efforts based on these statistics about expats in the region that we're going for. I'm going to skip some slides, but there's some political stability index. As you can see, the GCC countries are the ones that are more stable than the non-GCC countries. I think pretty much covered most of this. And there's obviously a very high disposable income for expats in the region. 65% of the expats in UAE have more disposable income than their home countries. So obviously, a student who's studying in the UAE, is he thinking about going back to India or Bangladesh or Nepal, or is he going to countries outside of these regions? So there's obviously a high interest. I think I just want to summarize real quick. There's a high interest with students studying in the Middle East to recruit to study abroad for their undergraduate degrees. And these are some of the key reasons. Like I said, there's 1,000 reasons to recruit in Middle East, but these are just some bullet points to keep in mind as you think of Middle East as a region. I'm just going to skip some of these slides. English proficiency index, it's actually just Lebanon, which is above the world average when it comes to English proficiency across all countries in Middle East. So a great place to recruit for ELS programs or those kind of courses. Just a quick snapshot of number of IB and CIE schools in the Middle East across these countries, and it's growing. I mean, you step into UAE, I mean, UAE is probably the highest concentration of IB schools around the world. So just a quick snapshot in terms of how many schools we're looking at, and these are all our target audience, right, for all our universities. So I'm going to leave at that. I'm going to invite Karen to take on the session. Sorry if I...
No worries. I'm going to go ahead and, I think, stand over here.
Do you want this? Or
No,
you want me to?
I'm fine.
Yeah?
You can take that. All right. Can everybody hear me up here? Awesome. Well, once again, my name is Karen Bauer, and I'm the REAC for the Middle East and Central Asia. Just by show of hands, how many people have heard of Education USA? All right. How many people have been to an Education USA center? A few more. All right. So Education USA, I'll just explain a little bit about who we are. We're a State Department initiative. We're global. We're worldwide. We're in 175 countries. We have over 430 centers, and our advisors are out there in embassies, consulates, binational centers, Fulbright commissions, meeting with international students, and helping them throughout the process. All of our services are 100% free. And for you, the universities are predominantly the ones in the audience who we're talking to. We are really your eyes on the ground. We are there to tell you about trends, how to meet with different high school counselors, really just to be that connector for you. And for those of you who are Americans, we are your taxpayer dollars at work. So I cover 2 regions. I cover Central Asia, so that's kind of the foot that keeps me here today. And I have Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Pakistan, and Afghanistan. But in the Middle East, where I've been for over 25 years, I have mostly the Gulf countries. And so those are the countries in blue. And I co-lead the Middle East with my colleague, Melissa Deschamps, who is based in Qatar. So we're there really supporting our advisors and supporting our students. So that's a little bit about who we are. So it's important that you know when you come to the region that you contact us. That you look at our resources, and I'm going to share what some of those resources are so that we can help you recruit. And we also help people do a little bit of armchair recruiting as well. We know that budgets are tight. We have a lot of different conferences and forums that I'll talk about, and also a lot of information on our website. So that's a little bit about who we are in the Middle East. I think it's also important. We saw a lot of different charts and graphs there. I know predominantly we're looking at recruiting undergrads at this conference. If you just draw your attention to the blue bar, that will allow you to see really where undergrad students are coming from based on the IIE Open Doors reports that comes out every November. So you can see, as was mentioned, a lot of those students are coming from countries where they have those government scholarship programs, where they're fully funded by obviously the government. But we also do see students, as mentioned, who have the financial means to also come and study abroad. So that kind of gives you the idea of where they're coming from. You'll see that the lowest number at the undergraduate level are students from Iran. They usually, when they're at home, study in country just because they have a really good undergraduate system. But we also do have quite a few Iranians that are outside that are a part of the diaspora. And it is a trend that we've seen as more Iranians are looking at the undergraduate level too. So don't be discouraged by that low number. When it comes to what students are studying, it's all the things that you would expect that have been there for years. STEM, engineering, cybersecurity, computer science, of course, business, economics, medicine, and health. Those have been there for the longest time. These are based on the labor market needs of countries. I think it was mentioned the 2030 initiative for Saudi Arabia, their vision. All of the countries within the GCC have some type of vision. I think one country has 2050. I don't know if we're going to be around for that, but they're really thinking ahead and how do they build the human capacity at home. There are new majors, and those new majors predominantly are in Saudi Arabia because we have seen such an openness and change in the country. I lived there for 12 years. I go back every year, and every time I go back, there is something new happened. If you were in Saudi Arabia recently, you might have seen these changes. If you haven't been there in the last year, I can guarantee you it's changed even more. So that's kind of exciting. I think we're seeing those students that were on the King Abdullah Scholarship Program 5 and 10 years ago in positions in power and excited and often almost like a little giddy to be able to be a part of the change. And so with the 2030 initiative, they have opened the country up and they're looking at hospitality. They're looking at entertainment. They are building stadiums. I just had someone ask me about going to Saudi Arabia in December because Eminem was going to have a concert. I mean, I'm serious with the amount of change. I visited a hospitality college, and for those of you who have been to Saudi Arabia, you know this. There were Saudi men and women together in the same classroom, hospitality, serving food and learning about how to make beds and things like that. It's not the same as what it used to be. So we're really excited about that. There also is a great push in the fields of medicine, short-term, micro-credentialing, TVTC, which is the Technical and Vocational Training Council, is also looking for short-term programs. They do not have time for a lot of the students to go into full degrees in order to upskill as fast as they want to move forward. So keep that in mind as you're recruiting, that the fields are definitely changing as well. And I think we see that in other countries as well, just with the Saudiization, the Omanization, the Emiratization, and trying to get more locals in those jobs that expats were having in the past. Some of the opportunities. So all the Gulf countries have some type of scholarship program. It is very confusing. I understand. It has changed. It's always changing. I'm going to share some resources for you. My colleague Melissa Deschamps and I put together a 25-page Google Doc that we edit all the time on all of the different scholarship programs, the link, how you can make sure that you're on the list. And those lists are constantly changing. So we want to make sure that you know how to check and where to go, and to reach out to us and our advisors if you need help doing that. I think also, just because you aren't on the list doesn't mean that you shouldn't come, because in a lot of places they're giving more autonomy to the universities to make those decisions and sign those MOUs. So a lot of it is it's relationship building. It's that face time that is so priceless. So coming and meeting those ministry officials, whether it's at NAFSA or at various conferences or on the ground, I think is so very important. I just want to highlight some of the trends and things that are happening in some of the countries. Of course, we've mentioned Saudi Arabia, just the openness. You might have heard about Neom, the line, this new city that they're building in the northern part of the country that's on the Red Sea. A lot of opportunity and growth that is there. We will be having the international, it used to be called ICHE or IECHE. It was the big fair that everybody would be coming to. That's now going to be on April 14th to the 17th. That's going to be very exciting. Education USA is going to have our regional forum in Riyadh in the fall of 2025. We've never had it in Saudi. So a lot of openness is there. Very easy to get a visa. It usually only takes a few days online. You can rent a car. If you've been there in the past, women are not wearing abayas. I don't bring mine anymore. So being there is very important as they make that change. For the UAE, with the scholarship program, they have started a new program called Rise Up, and it is for community colleges. Yay for community colleges. Finally, I get a government scholarship that's looking at community colleges, and it is exciting. It's been in place for 3 years. They have about 900 Emiratis, male and female, at community colleges in the United States that will need to matriculate after their first 2 years on campus. They're living with families. The goal is to get 6,000 students in community colleges by 2028. We know sometimes those numbers are inflated, but it's the idea that that vision is there. I am hoping that that will be a ripple effect across the region, because it is really important. A lot of times they can't get, obviously, into the top 50 schools around the world. And so it's nice to know that there's another pathway. It was mentioned about the expat community in the UAE. We're seeing a lot of students and their families from countries in conflict areas. So even when I go to the grocery store, more items on the shelf from Russia, from the Ukraine, from obviously places like Sudan. So it really is a place that's a safe haven at times for family members. And they do have a new visa called the Golden Visa. And so a student can get this visa and their parents get it as well. So if a student is very smart and they want to study in the UAE, mom and dad have a way to stay in country too. So that's just a few things that I'm seeing. Kuwait, definitely, we're doing more there. 80% of the students on their government scholarship program are at public institutions. Education USA goes in every year. We've been doing this for 3 years to every single public school. We have a group of 6 Kuwaitis who have studied in the United States, telling them about our services. So the numbers have been consistent for Kuwait, which is something great, and we're happy to see. Oman, it used to be kind of a closed door for us. We just brought back the Fulbright program in Oman. I was just there for the ISEF conference in February. They're bringing key leaders from the GCC to have conversations there. So there's an opening up there as well. And Oman is just charming and cute. And if you haven't been there, they have great hiking as well. Bahrain wants to be a hub as the UAE. They realize they're physically in a great location. And although we don't have a presence in Iran, we also see the numbers that are going up there as well. I have just highlighted on a few, but know we can help you learn more about the other countries within the MENA region. Don't forget about North Africa. While the numbers from Open Doors have gone down because of the changes in the government scholarship programs, the numbers have gone up in North Africa and the Levant. And I think that's because they're looking for opportunities because economies aren't doing that well. So please don't forget to fly over just to the Gulf and please visit some of those other countries. We're going to be having an Education USA fair in Jordan that's 100% free. You just have to physically get yourself there. It's funded by the embassy, and that will be in October. So just a little plug for Jordan. I have a QR code on the back of my business card that's up here, and this is the link to the page that Melissa and I manage. We have links to all the fairs that are happening in the region. We have, as I mentioned, that list for scholarships that is there. We have country spotlights that our advisors have recorded. Anything we feel that you could use as a tool to recruit is there. So if there's one thing that you bookmark and keep, definitely please take a look at our Google site. I have one for Central Asia as well, if you're also recruiting there too. And that's on my business card. And then what I've noticed from meetings is everybody's talking about partnerships, but I can't get the right people to come to the same place to talk. And so we recently this summer created a partnership board. It's free. So if you want to partner in the Middle East or Central Asia and you'd like to post what your institution would like to partner on, you can just fill out a Google form and I'll put your institution on there. But you can also look at institutions in the Middle East and Central Asia that are also posting on there. So it's kind of like a dating match site for partnerships for HEIs. So that's there too. And then anybody on your campus or yourself that speaks Arabic, we're always looking for people to present in our webinars. Please share this with your faculty or staff that might also be interested in help with your recruiting as well. And we will definitely reach out to you. And so with that, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague from Qatar.
Hi, everyone. My name's Sam, and we really are going from macro to micro. So we're going from 27 countries, 15,000 people to one school, one country. Okay, so I just want you to know this is my personal experience and insight from the 6 years that I've been in Qatar. Okay, so I work in Durham School for Girls. It's a bit of an anomaly. So we're a British school. We're a private school, but we are 99% Qatari students. All girls, all female campus. I founded the school with my sister, who's there in the middle. She's the principal. But I think from those 6 years that I've been there, I do have some insights that hopefully you will find interesting. So you've seen some of this information. So if we look at Qatar, 3.12 million according to the website, strong gender split, and only a few Qataris. Yeah. So the gender split is mainly due to immigrant workers. So people who are coming in for construction, for hospitality, all of those kind of things. So when we look at expat populations, it's important to remember that there is a large part of that who are not clients of yours. Yeah. So don't be fooled sometimes when people are saying, you know, yeah, the expat community is there for the grasping. In my opinion, yes, there's an expat community there, but it's the middle class expat community, let's say, not the working community, who are there to send money back to their families, right? So keep your head, you know, don't get carried away with some of the statistics because it can be misleading, right? If we look at the UAE, basically we've got Qatar on steroids. Yeah, it's the same thing, same idea, same setup, but just 10 times bigger, right? So again, the same thing applies when we're looking at those numbers. So, for example, in Qatar, we have a whole load of government schools. The majority of government schools are single-sex schools, okay? That's how they don't mind the children going to school when they're very little in a mix, but very soon they do prefer single-sex schools. There are also 334 private schools, and they serve 215,000 students. Now, those students are possible clients of yours, okay? So many of them, most of them are mixed. The reason why Durham School for Girls grew so quickly was because we found a niche in the market. There were no single-sex private schools for girls, okay, when we opened in 2019. Many of our families said, we've been praying for this school, right? But at the same time, we went a step further and we're an all-female campus. So there are no men on our campus from 7 till 2. None. Which can be a little bit daunting at times. Yeah, a little bit daunting, but it's a different sort of concept, right? Unfortunately for you, practically none of my girls go abroad. Yeah, Qatari girls tend to study in country, right? Hence the fact of schools opening. So John Moores, Liverpool, Derby, Ulster, Leicester, yeah, along with Education City, which is VCU, Georgetown, Weill Cornell, Carnegie Mellon, you know, those top schools that are based in the country as well. Yeah. So many of you may have read about the Texas A&M decision to leave Qatar. So again, there are sort of political things going on in that arena as well. But there are a lot of students in Qatar waiting to go to university. So this is sort of overall, to give you an idea of the overall number of students, those in private and those in public, if they're Qatari or non-Qatari. Okay, so this is public schools, so male and female, non-Qatari, many more, obviously Qatari schools, the government schools, so obviously they're free of charge. Private schools, if you're a Qatari, you get 28,000 QAR per child to pay for a private school. So you get help for paying those fees. Hence, many also go to private schools, although we've got less here. But again, go back to the population idea, right? That's normal reflection of our population data. So what's the high school situation all about? There's a lot of competition between schools. A lot of competition between schools. And I think it's hard for schools to find sometimes an identity. Yeah, they tend to either be identified by the curriculum that they follow, yeah, or maybe their demographic, yeah, so, or maybe the curriculum. Now, there are over 20 different curricula in Qatar, which, considering how small it is a little bit crazy, right? We've got the Finnish school, the German school, the Indian school, the Philippine school, the British school, the IB school, the American school, the Canadian school. And it's a nightmare in school admissions when they change schools, which they do frequently, right? Because if they're in grade 6 in the Finnish school and they come to me, they want to be in grade 7, but actually that's year 8, but they can't go into year 8 because they didn't pass year 7, and it's absolutely mental, all of the different curricula that there are. And I think that's hard for you guys as well to know, how did they do, what's that school report look like? I mean, I'm really sorry, but I hate IB because the only contact I have with it is when I have an admissions and I have to read a 20-page report, and I don't know whether they're emerging, developing, whatever they're doing, to get through the 20 pages. Is this a good student? I always go and say, is this a good student? So I think also one of the big challenges here in the Middle East is this balance, okay? Let me just take Qatar. Qatar is super open, yeah? Loves international people, but at the same time, because they're such a minority, they're also terrified of losing their national identity, right? So there's a conflict. There's a conflict there. And I think if you approach schools and you're talking about recruiting Qataris or you're talking about recruiting international students, it's a different ballgame. You are not going to recruit both of these sets of people with the same recruiting strategy or material or, conversation. If you go to the Middle East to recruit, if you're looking for Middle Eastern students, as Melissa said, if you've got someone who can speak Arabic, fantastic. If you go there, show as much respect as you can for the culture. Yeah, not the no-sleeve dresses. You need to meet them halfway. I've never worn, a shayla or anything in the 6 years I've been there, but I've also never worn uncups or a shorter dress or things like that. Yeah, so be ready to meet culturally if you're looking to recruit people from the Middle East. Yeah. If you are doing international, be prepared for a huge mishmash, because you've got loads of different nationalities. I'm on the counsellor chat, and I flip out every single day because you get counsellors saying to other counsellors, does anyone know of a school that does dentistry in Kazakhstan? It's like, what the? Does anyone know physiotherapy, in Outer Mongolia? Do we have anyone have any contacts? It's crazy because financially they're looking for different things and they're looking to see how they fit in. And some of the things that the counsellors do are, absolutely magical. I don't know how they do it, right? How they respond to what their children are looking for. Also, obviously, success is measured in different ways, although I went to a talk this morning and they were sort of showing what colleges base their decisions on, and it still seems to be very much the grades, the curriculum, and the school reporting that is the biggest weight. An interview, surprisingly, was way down. Yeah, I don't know if we've given up interviewing or if you guys have given up interviewing or not, but it seems to be sort of way down. So being able to understand, as I say, those reports, that curriculum, those information that are coming from schools about the standard of that child. I can also say that if they are not certified exams, if they come from the school themselves, watch that. Yeah, we receive children from other schools whose reports are outstanding, and they fail our admissions test. Yeah, so you need to really analyze the results that are coming. Most results, I guess, that you're getting are from IB, IG, AS levels, A levels, whatever. But be careful when you're looking at the marks of the students. Certainly lack of pathways, I feel, for some of our students, especially the Qatari ones who have to have the Thanawiya in order to go to university. International expectations. I think a lot of the kids that are non-Qatari that are in Qatar and in the Middle East in general are third culture kids. You know, they don't really know what they want or where they're from. You know, mum is British, dad comes from the US, they were born in Saudi. You know, it's quite a complicated thing for them. So what kind of things are they looking for? I think you have great opportunities with the expat community in Qatar, but you need to be able to get to them through things like Melissa's fairs and coming to the country and speaking to the students. Local, obviously that idea of having an international experience, but without compromising their values. And I think there you go to, once they're in your colleges, making sure they've got the support to be able to be there because they're not as independent maybe as other students. They want to have the same opportunities. They measure everything by university. What did I do? Okay. By, you know, Education City in Qatar is the be all and end all. They will also probably be the students from the Middle East who make a lot of applications to a lot of schools. Yeah. So, you know, making sure that they're the right fit. You're not wasting too much time on, you know, we have students who, I'm going to apply for medicine here and I'm going to apply for media studies here and it's like, what do you need to decide what you want to do. Yeah. So there's a little bit of that, which I think is a huge burden on college admissions, right? You're spending a lot of time maybe on applications of students who actually are never going to go to your schools, right? So I think that's an important thing for you to bear in mind, which is why coming and speaking to students is important. So as I say, culture, religion, social opportunities, I would say, you know, integration, identity, fulfilling all of your shareholder expectations. These are the high school challenges that we have. In terms of best practice, I would like to just throw out a few ideas for you about how to get in touch with students. So for example, think about organizations such as the British Schools of the Middle East. Okay, that's an organization that encompasses all British, for example, British schools that follow the British curriculum that are in the Middle East. And sometimes I think these kind of organizations can be a pathway of getting information to schools in the region. So just to think a little bit about those type of associations in order to have access to the students who could be students for your colleges. Also, obviously, we've spoken about the ministry list. So Qatar has the list of accepted colleges and universities where scholarships are given to all of Qataris who meet the requirements. You can find that list on edu.gov.qa. There's the Amiri Scholarship, which is a higher amount of money in country and abroad, and also list of approved universities for self-funded. And I think certainly there, this list comes normally from world rankings, okay? So that tends to be how they make the list. But scholarships are found all over Qatar. So Qatar Energy do their own scholarships. Have a look at some of the major ministries have their own scholarships. Yeah, so it's possible to be able to connect with these kind of entities and maybe be on, if you're amazing at engineering, you might be able to get on a Qatar Energy scholarship, you know, if you make those links with companies. So I think if you come to Qatar or the Middle East, try and also meet with the HR departments in some of these bigger companies. That would be a piece of advice that maybe hasn't been possibly thought of. And I think sort of the epitome of what the situation is like, it goes back to maybe the the World Cup that we had. Yeah, lovers and haters, I'm sure. I was appalled by the media in the UK about the World Cup when I was there, living a completely different experience to what was being reported in the media, obviously with that political and social bias. But I think they really nailed it. You know, respect, understanding, and legacy. And hopefully, those are the things that your universities can manage to achieve in the Middle East as well. Thank you very much.
A very good afternoon, everyone. And thank you to both my colleagues for giving an amazing overview of the Middle East and the Qatar education spectrum. So I'm going to be speaking with respect to, the recruitment. So I've been in the UAE for now about 8 years. And I have been the international advisor for Western University, where I started single-handedly connecting with the schools, the ministry, and working with student groups, counselors, etc., for the university for entire Middle East and India. And I can say from 2015 up until now, our numbers for Western University have grown tremendously. A few things which have changed from 2015 up until now, that as we all mentioned, that we have a very select group of families, expat families, which are moving to the Middle East. UAE itself is seeing a huge growth of expat population. Last summer, we had over 1.1 million new expats move to the UAE. And this year, the count is close to 1 million new families coming to the UAE as well. And in my interaction with them, connecting with the families, schools, the sense I got is all of them are upper middle class families, have the propensity to spend, and have great aspirations for their students, for their kids as well. So the communities that you will see are highly selective, and they are looking for the best universities for their children, irrespective of whether the child is capable or not. But the perception starts from, yes, we want to get into the Ivy Leagues. And that journey starts from grade 9. What happens from grade 9 to grade 11 is a different story. When realization hits them, they understand the grades are not there or whatever. So I think as universities engaging with the students and the school counselors is extremely important. As my colleagues mentioned, that there are ministries. Ministries have their own funding, but those fundings primarily were for universities in the top 115 to 120 rankings, which still exist under the RISE program, for example. But I do work very closely with the ministry for the university as well. And what I'm seeing is that now with the emeritization, Saudization, and all the other governments, they want skilling. They want to skill their own students as quickly as possible to help them work. Now, there is a category of students who are high achieving, and they will go on the full scholarship program to the top Ivy Leagues or the top universities worldwide. The other category, the ministries are now sort of thinking of being more flexible and sending their students for the associate degree programs, for diploma programs, quick grade 12, do 2 years, come back. That is becoming more and more popular because those students who are Emiratis or Saudis or Omanis, not high achieving, but still should get the opportunity because there is a need to bring them back and get them in the jobs. So I think that there is a lot of merit in looking at those. The third thing, what I'm seeing is happening is the students and the parents are looking for different countries now. The unique, sorry, not the unique, but the well-known destinations exist, of course, but the perception now is let's keep them closer to home. Affordability is becoming a concern. Inflation is at its rise. So people are looking for unconventional destinations. I am seeing European countries becoming very popular. Students and parents are looking for more scholarships than they ever before. And I'm also seeing a lot of universities, foreign universities, partnering with UAE universities on the ground, creating sort of 2+2 model situation where you do 2 years in the UAE and then transfer, which I think is a great model and something worth looking at, is because of all the political issues happening and all the the wars going on, the parents also are feeling like, let's keep our kids closer to home, wherever that home is. And then maybe think of sending them over when they're a little bit more mature. So I think creating awareness about upcoming courses in your organization. Like I learned yesterday in the university fair that some of the US universities have AI at the undergraduate level, cybersecurity at the undergraduate level, which I think the students and parents don't know. So I think bringing out to the school counselors, doing some workshops of some of your key programs which are in demand and related to careers, upcoming careers in your respective countries, will definitely help you in engaging more with students and the school counselors. The schools get so much request from all the universities from all over the world, especially in the UAE, that they literally have no time. So what we are seeing is there are in-school fairs, there are the larger fairs, which are organized by third parties, and students are moving all over, doing these fairs, etc. But the ultimate authority remains with the school counselor. The school counselor always is the first person who's recommending the parents where the child should go. So creating that rapport is extremely important. The ministries and the respective government organizations across the Middle East are a great starting point, because now even they are becoming more flexible in working with universities, which can give more skilling opportunities, micro-credentialing opportunities for their high school students as well as their workforce. So there's a lot of merit in engaging with them as well. Alumni network, I feel, is a very strong tool. So engaging with alumni networks, creating, programming around it, just connecting with them and doing some activities definitely helps a lot. I work with two of the largest school groups in the Middle East. One is GEMS and the other one is SABIS. And these schools also are very interested if the educational institutions would create a special scholarship for their own students. And they're open to the idea of, whatever the qualifying criteria is, you can set your qualifying criteria, but give our students a scholarship which definitely boosts your institution's brand name, and it also sort of helps you showcase your scholarship opportunities, your programs, which the students may not be looking at. So what I'm seeing is, students and parents are looking for smaller universities. Liberal arts is becoming a very popular program area. The awareness is increasing. Unconventional careers are coming up. Different kind of programs and courses are extremely important. It's just about creating that awareness. So if you guys can create workshops for students, internships is huge in the Middle Eastern community. In fact, everywhere, even in India. So if you can create faculty-led workshops and just do it online, partner with the schools, you will get a lot of mileage from those itself. When students interact with your faculty members, you give them a certificate of participation. That goes a long way, especially when the child is going to say, yes, now I need to apply. Well, I did this workshop. I loved it. Let's go ahead and at least apply and start talking to these universities. So that is it from my end. I think I'll leave some time for Q&As as well. And over to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Karen, Sam, and Vandana. I know we went a little overboard than the time that we had planned for ourselves, but like I said, this is just the tip of the iceberg. You know, Middle East is a region. It has its own complex, own challenges, but it's a region full of opportunities. So we'll open the floor for some questions. I know we had some questions, but we've touched based upon those already during our presentation. So of course, you know, as Karen mentioned, even if you're not listed on the government on the ministry's list, or you know don't have rankings, it's still a region where you want to invest and you want to go. Anything that you want to add about community colleges specifically? I know Vandana talked about the associate's degree, and I wanted to just because it's a region which doesn't look you know very positively at community colleges. Anything that you guys want to add on that? Oh.
Yeah, I mean, I think the UAE making the move with the Rise Up program is huge. And so a lot of our job is to share that with the other ministries. And so if you are a community college, I mean, making sure that you advocate for yourself and you advocate for those that are around. So, I mean, we're going to, I think, continue to see more of that. And we know that, you know, like it was mentioned, people really don't have the time. They want to do these short-term programs, and also we want to get them in schools as soon as possible. And so the community college is often that entryway, and it's a place where it's usually a little bit easier sometimes to get those visas, because those students will all come back home and return home. They aren't necessarily looking for a pathway to immigrate. And in some regions, that can be a little bit harder to explain to a consular officer. So,
Do we open? Yeah, do we open up? Yeah. Any questions from the audience? Anything that you want to share with your experiences? You know, I know we have a lot of seasoned professionals over here who've spent years recruiting in Middle East. Anything that we might have missed, or you would want to share about the region, about recruitment, about strategies, about trends that we're seeing? Yes, no, maybe. You know, one of the points that I missed out on was we're also seeing a lot of families, and this is relating to the expat family. You know, Sam had a very good point to add, that we're talking about expats, but it's not the whole expat community that falls under that category where they're looking at opportunities abroad. But with the upper middle class community, a lot of them are actually working for companies that are based out of, you know, like the local companies, and their education for their children are being funded by the companies, and that's where you'll see, you know, more outward mobility from those families, especially the oil companies. Anything else? Any questions? Yes, sir.
Not really a question, but maybe more in terms of advice. So I'm Rajiv Khosla. I represent Plaksha University. This is a new age tech university. We're 3 years old. And we believe in creating a different kind of an engineer, a more holistic engineer. We've so far had students only from India, but in this batch that has joined, 2 people from UAE have joined, and we did nothing about it. They applied on their own and they've come, and we've been now thinking about it. How do we go and attract students from Dubai or other parts? So we want to maybe first start with UAE, and we are also the most expensive engineering college in India, but we are very generous in scholarships. With UAE, obviously, we're not looking at scholarships as the means to enter, but we'd like to understand as to what could be the right way for us to make a first step. It could be a small baby step. Yeah.
You and I definitely have to speak later. But, you know, and what, just to quickly clarify, when you say 2 students from UAE, were these Emiratis or Indian origins? Okay, great. So we're seeing that trend. We're definitely seeing that trend amongst a lot of, the Indian diaspora settled down in UAE, where they're looking at opportunities with even Indian universities, the new age ones specifically. I mean, I've had conversations with students who are preparing for the JEE examinations also to enter the IITs, which are the prestigious for all our friends here. They're the prestigious institution amongst engineering. So we're seeing those trends. So a lot of students do want to come back, but they're looking at IITs. They're also looking at new age. So with Indian universities, I can just throw some names like Flame. Flame has actually traveled with me in Middle East in Dubai. But there are a lot of schools that have a higher density of Indian population. So you'll have to identify. My advice would be to identify the schools that might be the best fit for you. Uh, Emirati schools, there are schools that are dedicated to Emiratis, maybe, but definitely the Indian community schools. Anything you want to add?
I know we're close to time, but definitely we can share with you the different fairs that are in the region, possibly maybe consider a visit, visiting a few schools. There's some key just overall fairs by the ministry, and I think that would be a really good way just to start to get your name out there and maybe do some armchair recruiting, maybe do some targeting social media as well, spotlighting those students and just starting to connect with the counselors and open those doors. Yep.
Sorry, I'll just add one last point. Recently, I'm seeing a lot of interest in the Indian expat community in the UAE to come back to India. And the reason is, there is inflation, there is wars, there's cost of going abroad is going high, accommodation, cost of living is doubled. So Indian expats are looking at India very, very closely. I think it's a great time to start connecting with the Indian associations there. There are quite a few, I can share some with you, and the Indian schools. Yeah.
I know we're 2 minutes beyond our scheduled time. Any last thoughts? That's it. Well, thank you so much for being here with us for the last hour. And if there are any questions, you have our contact information. So would be happy to share some more details with you and connect with you separately. Thank you.